things like even what you've been working on recently with like these animations,
Mhm.
you know, again, these at the moment are nice to haves, which are great. Again, are going to be another point of like differentiation. So how important do you think it is? Because we touched over a bit of food earlier, but the importance of bringing in a bit of animation emotion and making sure it's not too much or oversaturated. Like, what's the balance?
Yeah, I think like we spoke about earlier, I think like that's the tricky part, is like identifying when too much animation is too much animation, you know. I think with animation these days, I think, you know, you just have to do it tastefully. And what does that mean? You know, it's like each and every
Preference,
it's
yeah.
preference,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's and you kind of just have to design with like your own taste, like design how you know, animate how you feel, or how, you know, just like, I think we spoke about this earlier as well, when you kind of like design it, like say you're designing something for a client or whatever, and you just know, you kind of know what you've done something really good, and you get
Yeah.
that, you kind feel like you're leveling up, like
You've
you
ranked
described
up.
it as.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's the exact same feeling you have, or I have personally, with like animation stuff. It's like you can quite easily go too far with it, you know, you can quite easily go crazy with it. But I think like overall, on top of that, I think like I think you have to, like, at the end of the day, kind of identify what you're trying, like the context. I think you have to identify the context and what that animation's trying to do. You know, is it telling the correct story? Is it doing the right thing for that specific feature in that, you know, bento box grid animation, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes having like as a designer, a limited knowledge on certain things is actually beneficial, rather than you knowing the intricacies, because otherwise you're caught up in a bubble.
Yeah.
When we were speaking earlier about the even need of a copywriter, or even like some kind of like content owner goes,
Yeah.
right, okay, we're going to have this section on the homepage which speaks about these features.
Yep.
The benefits of these features are, I don't know, this, I don't know, like this auditing software that we've
Yeah.
got that's got this automation, right? You not knowing all the intricacies of this this feature is actually a beneficial thing, because
Yep.
if you're doing the marketing side, you're going to be asking the same questions
Yeah.
someone has
Yeah.
who knows nothing.
Yeah.
So you're going to go, right, okay, you're going to ask the right question of what does this do? How
Yeah.
does this work? You go, okay, I need to
I think
create
it's
this.
a lot of wasted time. I think, like,
Yeah.
like you said, sometimes it is beneficial just to, like, you don't have to know all the ins and outs. You know, it's like if you can kind of generalize an idea in a kind of short animation,
You
you
create a
know.
visual metaphor. On how
Yeah,
to,
exactly.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
a perfect way to describe it. It's like a visual metaphor of like what you're trying to say, or what you're trying to, you know, what you're trying to do there on like a page, or like a, you know, an illustration. I think, you know, I don't think you have to think too hard about it, as long as it's kind of capturing that kind of general idea of like what it is, and then use animation kind of tastefully to kind of improve that, you know.
It's the balance of that hierarchy, right? It's just like having the content, the space for it, what you're trying to tell, the visual, and then again, it is a bit of a preference, but where that kind of animation emotion should kind of come in, and then the impact that should have. It should sometimes, even some of the stuff you've done recently, can be a subtle. It's like an
Subtle.
it's an accent to complement it, not trying to look at me, look at me. Right?
Exactly. It has to be subtle. Like, that's like, well, for me personally, like, it has to be kind of, you know, subtly done. It's like, it has to be, you know, very tastefully done. It's not in your face, you know. It should just be something that happens quickly on a page. But also, I was going to say there, I think like it shouldn't just be the animation or whatever it is. It shouldn't be the kind of micro interaction that kind of, you know, the copy and everything else has to work with each other. Like everything, you know, it can't just be one thing.
No.
You know, it has to be like the animation, has to be like the copy. Everything just has to like play well with each other. And I think that's a challenge, isn't it? It's like trying to figure that out. How
it's the need for a good kind of project or product manager, though. That's the kind of their role and the importance of that, because without that, sometimes designers can have an ego where they can be like, okay, I'm going to use this project to do this kind of style, this thing, and me to showcase all these things.
No.
So therefore, like what we spoke about earlier, I've seen some really good things on Twitter X with all these animations.
Yeah.
So you start animation first, amazing things with this mood board you've created, and then shoehorn it in.
Yeah.
And then for the target audience of that product, well, I don't know where to look.
Yeah.
Because it's just oversaturated. So
yeah,
it's difficult.
It is, but I think like, I think if you've got the context and you've got like a general idea of what the kind of story you're trying to tell, trying to capture that in a kind of visual metaphor that's subtle and simple. Like, I just try and simplify as much as possible when I design stuff like that. I think, some of the kind of complex animations and stuff like that you see, can then be regarded as you're just doing too much. You're just like, you don't have to try that hard. Sometimes it can just be very subtle. But yeah, those are definitely the kind of most fun projects.
Yes, it is the most fun, but it's a two-way kind of relationship, right? Because you need to have a partner rather than client, a partner that values that equal to what you do to allow you to have that creative freedom and time to do that. Because if they don't value that, again, that relationship becomes kind of transactional of like, have you built this yet? Right. And that kind of makes you feel a bit like, okay, well, all right, just, you need them to have some kind of understanding. And that can be actually a big problem, especially with kind of like larger enterprises, is simply they may just not know what is required, which is fine.
Yeah. It's up to you to kind of educate them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And especially like larger teams, multiple people, and kind of identifying responsibility, key stakeholders. Oh, okay. Person A would be resourceful for me for this. Person B signs off everything. Person C, so then you kind of, it's your role to kind of, again, kind of consult, educate, and give them what's kind of best. But they need to value that.
Yeah.
But you'd like to think they've engaged with you because they value what you do.
Of course.
And they're hiring you because you know what you're doing.
Because you know what you're doing. Yeah, of course. And I think that's important. I think that's a luxury of like working with like, startups. I think especially startups in the US, I think they all have that sort of like knowledge of like what designers can do and what sort of kind of like vision that they can bring to their product. It's like startups in the US, they can, they kind of know about animation, they know about like illustrations can help sell a certain feature or whatever. So I think that's like, that's the good part about my job. It's like if you're attracting clients like that, they're kind of expecting you to come up with that stuff, like design those certain elements. So it's
and that's a shift I've seen between startup and enterprise. Startup can be a bit more, it depends, because sometimes the founders can be very hands-on and very much like want it this way and that way. And or you get the others like, I'm hiring you. I've noticed it with some of the Saudi partners that we have. There's like, okay, I'm hiring you to do your thing. You do your thing.
Yeah.
So it can really, really, really sway.
Yeah.
But within enterprise, it very much is, and rightly so, because as you work with larger enterprise, making sure you do talk to multiple personnels for justification of everything you're doing. But it can be a lot of hand holding as well. But
I think those are definitely the tough projects. You can have me personally, like I've never enjoyed like design it like this, like
how do you do with guidelines
then? I usually don't really take on projects where I have to like work with other designers' work. I never take on projects like that. No.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like to be there at the beginning. I like to come in at the beginning and like I've got the kind of creative control over the design decisions. Like it's very hard for me to jump into like another designer's work.
If the designer isn't there and you've got a set of brand guidelines, though, that's different, right? Or not?
No, you're right. Like, if they've already kind of come up with like, a set of brand guidelines and they're saying, right, okay, we need something based on this.
Yeah.
Then you've definitely got a lot more flexibility and a lot more kind of creative control on like how that looks from that kind of starting point. But I don't know. I think like. I struggle when it's like, here we've designed like a marketing site and we need like 3 extra pages. Can you design these 3 extra?
It's a bit like a relay race, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's like pass the baton on kind of thing.
Yeah, I just like, and there's been so much. I've left so much money on the table from that. But I don't know. It's just. I just can't. You have to then get in the mind of like what that person was trying to achieve from that original starting point,
It's a psychological kind of thing.
And some people can do it. Some designers can quite easily just jump in and say, right, okay, is that what you've got already? Right, okay, I can design this, and this for you.
It's comfortable design. I probably seek a bit.
Whereas I'm like so uncomfortable in that situation.
Discomfort, right? Seeking discomfort, and that's kind of like yeah, that's where the kind of the creative kind of thing kind of kicks in, right? Where I
Yeah.
can be able to do this. And that's a whole another thing with enterprises. Enterprise will have a brand guidelines, right? This, we've done it this way. We always do this way. We need someone to do this in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you have marketers come to you and go, right, we want to do something different. What some people and companies struggle to understand is that you can have a set of brand guidelines, but you can interpret them completely differently.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, sometimes when there's a really rigid kind of brief and brand, they can actually be the most exciting ones sometimes, because it's like, I can interpret this in really, really creative ways. But then it's a kind of a question of, as a marketing team, how flexible are you? Do you want to be? Because I can interpret this like all these ways to do something exciting with it and still be brand kind of guideline compliant. But you know, so that could be it can be exciting in its own in its own way. But well, James, thank you for coming on.
Pleasure,
mate.
Pleasure.
Lovely to have you on, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
I've enjoyed it.
Cheers, likewise. Thank you.